Government of Sri Lanka recognizes the SMEs as the backbone of the economy, as 75% of the total number of enterprises, both formal and informal, are SMEs. But only a significantly low 25% are said to be the women SMEs. The SMEs provide 45% of employment and contributes 52% of the gross domestic production. Thereby, the SMEs are of vital importance for the socio-economic growth of the country. Women possess greater capacity and ability to multitask, managing complex roles of dutiful wife, mother, daughter, etc., parallelly and effectively. But only a few are seen competing in the global play field alongside her male counterparts effectively. Women are more educated at tertiary levels and beyond, where the female counts surpass the males. However, with traditional biases still strong in some cases, women tend to become docile post-marriage and on becoming mothers. Most times, this is a result of several external factors such as non-availability of childcare help at domestic levels, etc. COVID-19 pandemic introduced the norm working from home, paving a major opportunity for the women to take to entrepreneurship. Yet, amidst all these pandemic challenges, the women entrepreneurs have many new emerging opportunities laid before them, which is my given subject of discussion. Prior to venturing into new emerging opportunities, it is of utmost importance to keep our existing business alive, for which you have to take control in 5 salient areas in order to prepare for the diversion. Firstly, keep your employees connected, engaged, talking to them of your way forward options. Secondly, take stock of your current business situation. You need to re-evaluate your business, inspect your capabilities, re-strategize, recalibrate your forecast. Create a revised business plan based on available resources, taking into account the changes that have taken place. Thirdly, manage your cash flow, which is of utmost importance, to ensure that your financials are sufficient to support your new venture. Fourthly, be in touch with your customers, ensuring that they stay with you. Finally, be the true leader you are, walk your talk. To identify the new and emerging opportunities, start studying the market and your resources. Be current, research, then select an emerging business, and accordingly, you need to craft your new business plan. There has to be something special in the product or the service you offer, which the receiver is now deprived of due to the COVID-19 pandemic. If we are to survive, we have to embrace technology. Digitalization is a necessity, which is not too difficult to start learning, as most women or their families possess at least a smartphone, which is the basic tool needed to access the markets. With the state stopping the importation of many products and items, the market has opened out for the need of very many locally manufactured products and produce. For the success of your new emerging opportunity, you have to maintain quality with the usage of good raw material and obtaining SLSI standardization, and be ready to outdo the foreign products. All these capable women available, it is time now for us to consider setting up job agencies and training schools to supply housemaids, caregivers, and nurses. There is also great opportunities in the agriculture sector, and also to venture into agriculture-based projects. New and emerging opportunities are at the doorstep of every woman. All we need to do is strong and resilient. Think differently. Think out of the box. Closely watch our surroundings and the markets. Research. Be alert on the government decisions and bank facilities offered to women. Thus, We can use the COVID-19 pandemic to our best advantage to emerge as successful women entrepreneurs in the new normal, thereby increasing the number of women entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
So as we all know, COVID-19 has heightened the importance of supply chain as never before. It was this virus, it was due to logistics that this virus traveled across the length and breadth of the whole world and really disrupt and crippled economies around in record time. But today we find that the economies and the global trade has come to a standstill due to the supply chain disruption. We know the airports are closed, the ports are not operating at full capacity, and all this is really disrupting the way that we conduct businesses and especially international trade. So we have to look at the economy, we have to look at the health of the people. So both go hand in hand. So in that context, supply chain plays a pivotal role in ensuring the continuity of businesses and ensuring our life is really continued without any disruption as well. And so I would say for the first priority of an entrepreneur should be, first, yes, we need to look at the future. First, you need to, like Chaturi also mentioned, you need to look at your employees, their well-being, how are they, and then really look at their safety and their security. That should be your number one priority. Maybe you are a small business, maybe you are a big business owner. So either way, I think your employees are your assets. So then you need to really look at that. Then you need to really look at most organizations, if you are a big organization which is evolved, and most organizations have their business continuity plans. If you have such a business continuity plan or a disaster recovery plan, please activate that. I'm sure most companies would have already done that, right? If you don't have it, then it is a time for us to think about it while looking at the disruption that has happened to your operation in supply chain. So first of all, you need to understand and map the entire supply chain and see what are the linkages in your supply chain that has got disrupted. So how do we really look at our supply chain linkages, supply and suppliers? So we have to first understand our upstream part of the supply chain. What are the linkages that are impacted? If your suppliers are local, then you work with them and understand the stock situation. Then also you look at your own inventory stock that you have in hand. How do you really, what is it that you can do with the stock in hand, right? So then take a stock of that as well. Then downstream, you look at your customers, because the most important thing is to retain your existing customers, because finally, they have to be kept with you. Relationship matters. When something happens, whether the consumer will be the same. So supply chain is all about fulfilling the customer demand. So do we have to cater to the same set of suppliers, customers, or do we have to look at new opportunities if our suppliers are fully impacted? So you need to really get a stock of the whole end-to-end supply chain by mapping and understanding, identifying the weak linkages in the supply chain. Then you get a clear understanding on where the weak linkages are. And then you start plugging those loopholes and understanding what can be done. Can we really critically look at what are the wastages that are happening in our operation? This is a good opportunity for us to introspect and understand what are the wastages that are getting generated in our operations. That will really help us to, once post-COVID, the situation improves, at least you will be really be able to fit to compete in the marketplace. We cannot look at a long-term situation at the moment. We don't know how the future will pan out. So you need to really look at what are the new business opportunities that will come our way. Like Chaturi also mentioned, some of the business entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs in particular, have really embraced this new opportunity and they have ventured out into new areas. So are there opportunities to move? What are the opportunities that lie ahead of you? And that is something that you need to critically look at. So that is how the supply chain should be agile. Because this is a situation which was unprecedented. Nobody even thought that this will happen. So in such a situation, how quickly you can adjust to the situation and act will really help you how competitive your supply chain and agile your supply chain is. So what we need to do is we have to we have to think big, yes, but we have to start small and move fast. That is very important. So in the current situation and the current context, it's not the big people who will survive. I think it's how agile and survival of the quickest, I would say. It's not the survival of the fittest, the survival of the quickest who will be successful. So how agile, how lean in your supply chain will really determine how successful that you can be in your supply chain.
So digital platforms can play a big role for women, and therefore it's very relevant that post-pandemic, in the rev up of the economy, we try to consider what the reality is and what women have and what women need to have and what can we do about it. We need to make digital inclusive for women. We need to make digital accessible for women, and we need to make digital affordable for women. So as I keep mentioning, the first thing we need is national level gender disaggregated data on women and digital. This is the source. This is a source point, and it is only data that makes anything gives it integrity and gives it credibility. So I talk about 3 areas: inclusivity, accessibility, and affordability. Let me now elaborate a little bit on all 3. I know I'm belaboring the point on data, but this is an area we need to have researchers, thought leaders, regulators, change agents, all enabling data with gender disaggregated data, publishing it and making it accessible for all those users of such data. The second one is designing digital e-commerce products with the woman in mind. When we design digital e-commerce products, do we have the woman in mind as a user and as a consumer? Since our scope is more on the economy, business, and perhaps SMEs and entrepreneurship, I'll take the woman as a consumer. This is where digital transformation comes in to make the journey smooth and seamless for women. Staying in the comfort of their homes, women can now have digital banking platforms and create payment gateways for their business, even websites, and even do their branding. The next aspect is accessibility. For a woman to make a trip to the bank amidst all the other tasks and chores she has, as a daughter, as a sister, as a wife, as a mother, as an earner, as a nurturer, as a caregiver, as an entrepreneur, all that, going to the bank becomes another to-do in her already long list. Digital transformation in financial services has revved it up, making it way more convenient for women. They can access their financing needs on a mobile, on a tab, a laptop, from wherever they are. They can check their account balances. They can do transactions from the comfort of their own home. Now, this development in financial services should certainly propel women's participation in e-commerce more. Now, there's a responsibility on both parts, the women entrepreneurs out there and the financiers over this side, to make it happen, make it work. And collectively, people like you and me who spend time on a Saturday afternoon deliberating this, we can all get together to propel this journey and take this to greater heights, because it supports accessibility for women in digital arena. And the third point, affordability. Because women are generally very thrifty. They run the home budget. They manage the home finances. They run businesses. They manage those business finances. Women will look at value for money. Making digital access affordable to women, therefore, plays a key role in the agenda. And there is a lot that can be done in this area. Streamlining fees into an easy, understandable, simple structure makes it more affordable for women in monetary terms as well as time. Because for women, time is very precious. What did COVID teach us? We can do this, and we can do this digitally. That whole fear of digital has gone away. People got exposed to digital out of sheer necessity during lockdown. So we can use digital transformation post-COVID to rev up the economy, looking at the defining factor being women's contribution to creating economic value. The amount of home-based catering businesses, for example, that cropped up in very small scale, initially with cash on delivery or cash on pickup, have now slowly after 2 months turned into digital and cashless transaction modes. There's a lot of scope out there. We all need to get together and like again Gayani said about crisis and opportunity. There's opportunity there, there's a need out there, we need to make it work. Remember 3 things I said: inclusivity, accessibility, and affordability. If we can address these 3 points in the post-pandemic economic rev-up, we will make sure that not only women, both women and men will further progress to a great extent and make their business sustainable as well as prosperous. So that's my...
I wanted to just talk about like 3-4 factors I think are really essential for you to develop leadership. I think you need to start being comfortable with technology, whether you have been comfortable with it before or not. As a result of today to moving forward, I think it's really, really important that you become comfortable with these kind of technologies, being able to, using mobile apps and downloading stuff, paying stuff online. If you have not been used to it, I think that has to now become part of you and you have to be comfortable with that. And there's enough information out there. There's enough access to information out there for you all to be comfortable with that. So I think for you to be a drive leadership, I think it's really, really important you first become comfortable with the new landscape that most likely will be a defining factor. I think one of the things which is really, really clear to me is that not all of us are going to make it through the same shape and form, no matter how many changes, how much pivot we do on the business, because the need and the demand will be different. So that is something that we have to get used to and we have to acknowledge. It's really important to get that family. When I say family, it's not just your immediate family, but also your slightly extended family involved. Because I think this is not a time where you can deal with everything alone. Being in a lockdown also has a lot of mental and a lot of pressures that we must acknowledge. And, you must be able to deal with it. And the best way to deal with it is to lean to your support system, your family, and discuss and get them involved with the work and whatever the stuff that you are supposed to do. And I think that is how it will really help you. And I think getting people involved, whether it's family or your close friends or extended family, what it will allow you is to also build your kind of ability to manage work, manage stress, manage competing priorities in your life. I think that's a really, really good way of developing leadership as well. And I think one of the things I've always been a very, very huge advocate is that it's really, really hard to always be nice and always be with people all the time. I think you need to have a bit of a shutdown time, your own space and time for yourself. And I think it's important to, kind of refresh, rejuvenate. You need to have that little bit of space while you get your support from the family. I think it's important to have a little bit of a, kind of a space and time for yourself, that to reflect on the work you're doing. Am I doing it really right? Is there a better way to do it? Is there a way that I can think about it differently? And have like that reflection for yourself, I think is a really important thing. If nothing else, what this lockdown and last 2-3 months taught us is that we all need to be a little bit more patient, little bit more generous. Maybe developing local businesses, maybe reducing waste, maybe reducing whatever it is, or maybe increasing something else, maybe the answers. But I think it was a really interesting thing where we are now today forced to find those answers ourselves. And the way that we can find really great answers, we must learn to be a little bit more generous. We need to be a little bit more patient. I found a lot of time for myself that didn't exist for me, running out of being on the road or running after meeting to another, etc. during this lockdown period. And one of the things I also realized is that I have worked more number of hours on virtual meetings, which can be really, really stressful. It's really weird to be able to look at yourself in the computer and get into call after call after call, and you are looking at it, and that human interaction is a little different. It's a huge investment. But having that time for yourself, also allowed you an opportunity to learn something new. Whatever the skill or competency that would have been, I think that's really, really an opportunity that we never had. And I think investing my time now to develop a skill set and post whatever time when it starts back or whatever, I am now coming back, I think with a different and additional at least one skill set that I never had 3 months ago. I think it's important, if you are to develop leadership, you have to be constantly looking at yourself and say, in my toolkit, what are those essential 1 or 2 things that are lacking and I must need to now develop. And I think that is something as a 5th point I would like to leave with you.
As business owners, as mompreneurs, as women playing a role in leadership, because that's why we are here today. Whether it's a small time business, whether it's in big corporate, in whatever capacity, if you are making decisions, guess what? The stakes are high. So when we look at this, about where you are now and what has been the impact to your identity, to your persona, to who you are as a person, there are 2 dimensions that come into play. Number 1, anxiety. Anxiety. Number 2, stress. These things get triggered. And I want to tell you that as business leaders, yes, it's so imperative taking care and ownership of our businesses because we're responsible for the ecosystem, but also take a step back. We are responsible for ourselves. So today I want to talk to you about 2 M's that I coach people on. One is the connection between your mind, M being the mind, and the other M is momentum. These 2 are interlinked, especially now during crisis. Women in leadership, rev up during crisis. Guess what? Mind, direct relationship with momentum. Negative mind is negative movement, negative momentum, negative decisions, negative communication. Conversely, positive mind will give you positive momentum. 3 M's again, I want to leave with you. The first thing I want you to make note, if you want to move forward and be effective and rev up and be effective in your leadership journey during crisis, work on your mind. We talk about agility and the mindset. The idea is that every time there's impact, there should be growth, right? So first is the mind. And what I mean by the mind is motivation. Number 2, the method. What is your vision? Do you have to repurpose your vision right now? Have you re-looked at your vision? Have you looked at the values where you are right now? From your values, do you want to re-energize your vision, repurpose your vision? Do you want to recharge yourself? Based on your vision, you derive on your vision based on your values, then you move into goals, and then you take it to strategy. The 3rd M is mentoring. Simple, but very important. We underestimate the power of mentoring. This ideology that finding a mentor means this all-encompassing one person is not true. It's a myth. It can be so many people. So go out there and look for them, because you know why? You can't do it alone. So let's start with the thing you shouldn't be doing, the leadership traits that you shouldn't be projecting. The negative, as a leader, if you're manifesting these things I'm going to present to you, you need to change immediately. First thing, you're being very negative. Negative. Your language, negative. Second thing, you're not communicating. Some of us, like because I coach people in different continents, some leaders feel they're so stressed right now, they don't even communicate at all with their staff. They're just so angry with everything that's happening. So not communicating. Third one, always complaining. How many times, when was the last time you spoke of a solution? You're always complaining, you're grumbling, oh, this thing is not there, that thing is not there, this has given me this impact, this is negative, that is negative. You're always unconsciously complaining. So that is something you need to watch out for as a leader in crisis. The 4th one, you're blaming culture. You're blaming your staff, you're quick to blame things, the economy, politics, you're blaming this, that, blaming. The next one is unclear communication. Unclear is as bad as not communicating. Be very careful about what you say. Be very deliberate about how you want to move forward and how you support your team. Not having a sense of direction, you don't show it to them. Also, negative vocabulary, negative body language. Right? Moving on, let's look at the positives. I want to reinforce the positives now. positive leadership traits during crisis would be optimistic energy. Number 2, being solutions oriented. Being solutions oriented, very important. Number 3, constantly communicate. Make sure your team is aware of your goals. If there are any changes, make sure there's a protocol in place. Then delegating, explaining the accountability that you've set, clear communication, confidence, smiling, strength, having vision, a sense of direction, and positive vocabulary and body language. It's not about who is the fittest to survive. Yes, financial clout is important. Yes, strategy is very important. Yes, having the best team, grooming them is very important. But right now, it's about who has the mental stamina to grow. So going forward, every time you think you have agile mindset is you have impact, guess what? You expand. You have impact, you expand. You have impact, you expand. That is having an agile mindset. And it's going to work for you enormously.